G'day ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another Victoria 3 strategy guides video, where today I'm going to be teaching you guys how the military works in Victoria 3. Now, as you guys can see here, I am currently playing as the United States of America, or just the United Sovereign Archduchy with good old Rufus Hurlburt, which I'm surprised it's not Joshua Norton, but you know what, that's completely okay. I mean, that's him there, so... Okay, anyways, now today I'm going to be teaching you guys basically what formation or what army basically is the best to use in certain situations when you're going to war. Now, as you can see here, I've only currently got 2 armies at the moment. I've got 214 battalions. I'm going to basically explain to you why I have these battalions, and I'm going to basically show you other battalions that you can use for certain situations as well. Okay, so we're just going to start with my absolute big boy, and that is going to be just my regular army. Basically, I'm currently running 80 skirmish infantry and 78 shrapnel infantry. It would be 80 as well, but I think I didn't build an extra barrack, and I can't because, well, I'm on national militia. But basically, the reason why I do use this army and the reason why it's so big is because recently I just went to war on Britain for basically a good chunk of Canada. As you can see here, now we have a very big Oregon and a little Quebec. Basically, the reason why this army is so big is simply because of front. Now, I'll get into front size and everything later in the video. I just kind of want to talk about the basics of the military at the moment. Now, as you can see here, the average offense is currently 42.4, but when it's on full manpower, it is 42.5. Now, as you can see, this is a pretty good offense. It's basically pretty average for a size of this for a battalion. I mean, especially for the skirmish and shrapnel. But for defense, on average, is 39.1. As you can see here, I've got everyone on defensive, and I'll explain as why I do have that actually. But these are probably going to be the biggest key components about the way how Victoria 3 military is actually working. It's going to be your manpower, your morale, and your organization. Now, as you can see here, for manpower, I currently have 155 out of 158,000 manpower, so it's pretty stacked up. I'm just missing about 3,000 dudes. And then we have morale as well. Now, basically, if you don't have enough manpower and your opponent has, or the opposition, let's say you have 75,000 manpower and your opposition has a lot more, and you don't really have a good formation, well, let's just say you're basically going to lose 99.9% of the time. And that's especially with morale and organization. Now, basically, morale is the amount of supply that your army is getting. So basically, if your supply routes aren't really good, you're going to be in a lot of trouble, and your supply is basically going to run down low. And morale is also based on your army formation as well, and your formation will also now go into your organization. Now, basically, if you have a really bad formation, your organization is going to crumble quicker than a moldy biscuit. And the reason why I say that is, if we take a look here at the organization, you can see here a formation with low organization will suffer penalties the lower the value is up to the following effects. So basically, we get negative 25% offense, negative 10 defense, a negative 100% morale recovery, and negative 50% recovery rate. So basically meaning our morale won't recover, and our manpower recovery speed, we know how long it takes for us to conscript everyone, won't recover enough in time for us to continue the war. So basically, we're in big trouble. Now, you're basically thinking, so what makes a bad formation? That's a very good question. So basically, what makes up a really bad formation is going to be your infantry, artillery, and your cavalry. So this basically are the basic foundations of your army. Now, as you can see here, a really good and a formation that just always do the job is always going to be infantry and artillery. You can never go wrong with this. Basically, it's basically your bread and butter for every playthrough you do with military. Now, basically, let's say if I was to, do artillery, let's just say I build a couple more. As you can see here, I have too many. Now, the reason why it says I have too many, as it says here, once the number of special units currently under recruitment have joined, the organization limit for the regular army will be impacted due to having more artillery and cavalry combined than it has infantry. So basically meaning you want to have more infantry than you do of your special type units, which are going to be your artillery, cavalry. So basically that'll take a big blow to your organization and your morale, etc. So basically having equal artillery and equal infantry is always going to be the best thing. Now basically also your army size also really depends on your economy as well. As you can see here, I can manage an army this size because, you know, I have a decent sized economy and I can basically fund this army and have enough funding, especially when I go to war. Now let's say if you've got a small military army, etc. You got mobile artillery, line infantry, irregular infantry, cannon artillery, whatever you basically got going on. I always recommend 20 infantry, 20 artillery, 40 infantry, 40 artillery, really basically depending on whether you can fund it or not, basically. Now also you'll be able to get these better infantry units as well as you go down your research. As you can see here, I've got breech loading artillery, getting repeaters, and going for the hand cranked machine gun simply because of the army defense and kill rate. But that's basically the general overview of the army, kind of just like a real basic summary, to be honest. But now we're going to get right into the nitty-gritty and basically what formation is the best to use for certain types of warfare and basically what you're going towards. Okay, so here are some of the formations that I will use in nearly every Victoria 3 campaign, just to get right into it. So as you can see here, I'm currently rolling a couple here. So basically, we're just going to start with this one. This is going to be my offensive division. As you can see here, I got 50 infantry, 50 artillery, and 50 cavalry. Now, as you can see here, the reason why that I have 25 cavalry and 25 artillery is simply because with the cavalry, they do have a decent kill rate. However, they have a plus 30% battle occupation, while the artillery and the infantry units don't. So basically, this infantry division will help me capture territories, countries, or lead naval invasion much quicker. So having these as a round, and then the artillery kind of just adds in extra devastation and kill rate. I mean, the artillery has the highest offensive value compared to the infantry and lancers. While the infantry, obviously, you're going to need to balance your divisions out by 50% with infantry. They have by far the best defensive stats out of the lance, out of the cavalry and artillery. So having these guys around is going to be great for having offensive units. But I'd only chuck these guys in the front line when I've done enough damage to the opposition. Now this one here with the skirmish infantry and shrapnel, I only use this for defensive and offensive. It really depends on the situation I am. But I always start with defensive. Basically, I wear down the enemy's offensive units or offensive battalions until I do enough damage. And then eventually I'll switch these orders onto like cautious advance, pillage to do some more damage. And then I chuck on my offensive units as well to do the final killing blow, essentially. So basically having the my regular army and my 6th American army on the front line together is going to do the most amount of damage, hands down, and it's probably the best strategy to use in the game as of this moment. And again, not only that, when it comes to your mobilization as well, I would basically have rail transportation equipped for these guys, because again, I want my formation speed to be quick. I want to take this terror up. So for my offensive army, I'm easily going to have rail transportation. I'm going to have extra supply, and probably have some kill rate, a bit recovered, and definitely first aid as well, because obviously it's going to deplete a lot of my manpower. But these would be the most I would use. Again, the quicker this army is, the better it is, and the quicker I can take territory. So that's the main reason why I want this. And then again, this defensive unit, wear down the enemy and try and deal as much damage as I can before I send in my offensive army. Now, as you can see here, I have a huge army. I have 158 troops. Now, usually I don't run military this size. I usually basically run 90 battalions. So basically I'll have 45 infantry, 45 artillery. Those are my favorite to run simply because it's low and they're very effective, especially when you're fighting in smaller width areas. The reason why my army is so big is simply because of I was basically going to war to basically grab a majority of Canada. So that was basically my main reason. Now, basically, and a lot of the generals as well. Now, the reason why my army's also this big is simply because I have them all on basic admin defense, defend the front, etc., and most of them do have pillage as well. It's simply because this army is really big, is to wear down the offensive opposition, so then I can deplete their manpower, and then when I do my counter-offensive, it's basically game over. Now, the reason why I do this is because, now we take a look at skirmish infantry. They have a base value of plus 25 offense and plus 35 defense. Now, basically, skirmish infantry are going to always be the better option for defense, no matter how you look at it. Infantry is good for defense. Now, when we look at shrapnel artillery, they have a base value of plus 45 offense, plus 25 defense, and plus a 30% kill rate, plus 15 devastation. Now, basically, what that devastation is basically what it does to the little territory that you're basically defending or attacking. Now, also something that I also need to mention as well is the levels of your units. Now, this is very important. Now, as you can see here, most of my infantry units are level 5, and a good chunk of my shrapnel is level 5 as well. Now, if we take a look here, it is a veterancy level, which is current elite, basically level 5 out of 5. The effects that it gains from this is plus 25 offense, plus 25 defense, and plus 50% morale damage. So meaning I'm going to do a lot more damage to someone's military. Let's say me and Britain have the same divisions, right? But their skirmish infantry is all level 2. Basically, per unit, I'm going to do much better offense and defensive value compared to Britain's level 2, which probably has like what, 10-15% offense. I basically have 20% more buff than they would. So basically, and you're like, well, how do I get my units to like level 5? Well, that's a great question. Now, there's multiple ways you can do this. Now, obviously, if you have laws such as peasant levies, your guys aren't going to train up. So basically, the only way to level up your military with peasant levies is basically going to war. So, but that's going to be a lot more brutal because every time a unit die, basically, you don't have that level anymore, and a new one comes in, and it basically starts from level 1 all over again. So basically, this is why peasant levies bloody suck. I mean, that's basically the general overview when you play Victoria 3. Now, when you have professional army or national militia, professional army is my preferred go-to because of the plus 25% weekly unit experience gain for armies. Now, basically what this means is your units will gain levels plus 20 weekly without going to war. So basically, they're training up and preparing basically for the next war. So basically, professional army is basically the GOAT. But I'm still on national militia at the moment. I haven't really changed it. That's just what America starts off with. But professional army also gives you better conscription rate and a plus -5% morale loss. But that's kind of basically the general overhaul on what I'm going towards with level infantry. So that's basically summarize that. But back to the main topic at hand. So this unit is basically a way to wear down the opposition. Now, the reason why I do this is because of the shrapnel artillery kill rate. Now, as you can see here, the kill rate is plus 30%. So basically, I'm going to be doing a lot of damage personally to the opposition's manpower, which is going to be great. I mean, and plus I have a high defense value, so meaning every time they basically push in, they're basically pushing into a death trap. While the infantry here also has good offensive value as well, which is fantastic. Now, the only downside to this division is that it costs me about $36,100 a week to maintain, and when I do deploy it, it's going to be even more, especially with the mobilization, which I will get in a quick second. But basically, this is to basically just wear and tear, and then eventually when the manpower, morale, and organization get low enough, I'm basically going to advance and switch, especially switch these guys to advancing a front, and then switching these guys to pillage, and that will commit even more kill rate as well, plus 30%, which is going to do more damage again to the opposition, which is fantastic. So that's kind of the reason why I have an army size this big, but definitely the preferable is going to be a 95 battalion personally. Naval Invasions. Now, the best naval invasions best battalion that I want to use for naval invasions is definitely going to be skirmish infantry and cavalry. Now, cavalry is terrible, okay? I'm going to be completely honest. These guys, just don't use them a lot, I'll be honest. They not only have a lot of upkeep, but the defensive and offensive values they kind of have isn't really that good. I mean, considering skirmish infantry, they have a higher value, and same with shrapnel. So I rarely run lances, and the only time that I will ever run lances for anything is for naval invasion, and that's simply because compared to shrapnel and skirmish infantry, the lances have battle occupation. Now, battle occupation is how quickly you can take a province or a country. So basically, these guys are going perfect for naval invasions, because basically you want to end the naval invasion quickly, because naval invasions deplete your manpower pretty quickly, and so these guys are going to be perfect. But yeah, again, lances, bad morale loss, and a lot of upkeep compared to the shrapnel and skirmish. But yeah, those are basically the main divisions I would personally use. Now we are going to go down to mobilization, which is a complete ball game. Now, especially if we take a look here, I'm just going to quickly come to my regular army mobilization. As you can see at the moment, I have everything basically equipped for morale recovery, because, when you're fighting a big war, morale recovery, very important, especially with supplies. Now, with supplies, basically, it does consume a lot more stuff, but it does give you better offense and better defense, defensive buffs, which is fantastic. And definitely make sure keep an eye on these as you go out throughout the war. Very important, and especially with transportation here, with rail transport, formation speed. So basically, how quick your army is going to be in the war. So basically, I won't really activate this for a defensive army at the start, mostly for offensive divisions, and especially when I want to go for a quick advance, like rapid advance, basically. And I guess force march is the same as well. I mean, that negative 10% morale loss, kind of brutal. It's not too bad, but definitely transportation is going to be very important, especially when you want to take a province really quickly. Now, obviously, when we come into reconnaissance as well. Now, this you'll obviously get later on in the game. As you can see, I need the combustion engine, militarized to get balloon reconnaissance. I need to get militarized industry 3, and then aerial reconnaissance, which is basically military aviation. Now, as you can see here, they basically have 100% battle occupation, which is bloody insane. So quick, obviously, the quicker you can get to the better military stuff, the better it is to be on the other countries. I mean, it's quite obvious. And support equipment's basically the same. I mean, the machine guns is great because of the offense and defensive value. And then when you get down to chemical weapons and flamethrowers, yeah, that kill rate and devastation is going to be bloody brutal, as you can see the effects of what they have here. But one thing you also need to keep in mind is the amount that it's going to take on your products like ammunition, fertilizers, oils, etc. And then obviously here as well, first aid and field hospitals, which is going to help us so much with the manpower. It's basically a godsend, you know? So that basically kind of sums up mobilization. Please keep in moderation what you have enabled and why you have it. Don't just click a tick on everything. I mean, it really just depends on the situation that you're in. I mean, obviously, like if you're like fighting in a pass that's narrow and there's basically impassable terrain, having quick and high recovery, high damage is going to be perfect. I mean, I guess it really just depends on the situation and where you're fighting. So now that basically sums up mobilization, and now I'm going to obviously get into the orders. Now the orders are going to be so important depending on which army, because orders basically do everything. They can determine whether you win or lose depending on the general, the width, etc. Now I'm just going to take a look at good old Ulysses Crane here. As you can see here, we have advanced front, which is just +5 general advancement speed and plus 10% offense, and defend front is plus 10% defense, while the adamant defense is plus 15% defense and a plus 100% dug in chance. It does consume a lot of supplies, hence why I do have all this enabled. So then my defense is basically indestructible. I have all the stuff for my morale. Basically all these supplements are going in to obviously keep the to basically counter that supply consumption, but it does consume a lot more. So basically you want to build up a good industry for that. Now we basically have reckless advance. As it says here, order this command to advance a front, trying to invade enemy territory in a reckless manner. So with reckless advance, I would only use this if the enemy has low morale, low organization, you just want to get straight in there to end the war. That's basically the only time I would use this, because that blunder chance it has. So basically, a blunder chance is being affected by certain battle conditions like terrain, etc. And plus 150% chance. That's a lot. That's a lot. But yeah, again, aggressive maneuver chance, pretty good. Again, only do this when when the opponent's morale and organization is low. Now, pillage. Again, we kind of went through pillage a little bit more, but pillage is great, especially when it comes to depleting the opposition's manpower because of the kill rate and morale damage. So basically, if I had a guy who had reckless advance, 2 guys of pillage, I would use pillage to eventually get the morale and the organization low, and then I would switch them to advance front and this one guy to a reckless advance, so then I could quickly take the territory as quickly as possible. But yeah, because the only downside about pillage is just that battle occupation, so only use pillage basically when you want to deal some damage to your position. Now, cautious advance. Now basically this one is, you want to take territory, but you want to do it a little bit slowly, and you don't want to take any risks. You have a careful maneuver chance, which it says here basically certain conditions, you get plus 10% recovery rate, negative 5% morale loss, and 3.0 general advancement speed. So if your opponent is somewhat low but you need to recover some morale, I would definitely use cautious advance just to get that extra advantage. Now, heavy barrage. Now, heavy barrage is fantastic. I will be completely honest, I love using heavy barrage. I tried rerolling for a guy with heavy barrage, couldn't get it, which sucks. But basically, heavy barrage, amazing kill rate and amazing morale damage. Not quite as good kill rate with pillage, but heavy barrage is fantastic, especially when your army, you've got cannon artillery, shrapnel artillery, etc. That devastation is just going to cripple the enemy so quickly. And now we have rapid advance. Now, rapid advance is pretty good. Now, this is obviously used by cavalry. I would never use rapid advance for anything besides naval invasions. As you can see here, it's quick for battle occupation, which obviously stacks up onto the already existing plus 30% battle occupation for the cavalry units. But the rapid advance is really good to use for naval invasions. Quickly grab the territory. That's basically the only time I would use it. It does have a plus 50% increase casualties, and already when you naval invade, you do take a lot of casualties. So just use this only when you have to, or when you get basically really desperate. Now, heavy advance. Now, heavy advance is something that kind of I only use late game. Now, personally, I don't really play a lot of late game Victoria 3, just because the performance is terrible. But heavy advance is great because it gives a plus 50% offense. It's great for tanks. When you research them, it's like a tier 5 research, so you won't get it till the very end. But heavy advance is great to basically slowly push, but deal some damage to morale to the opponent. Now, countercharge is great. Now, this is also something really good to use with cavalry. It does take a lot of casualties, but the morale and kill rate is fantastic, and that plus 50% surprise maneuver is very good as well, especially when the opponent has done a lot of attacking, they're pretty low, and then when you use the countercharge, my god, you're going to definitely do some damage to your opponent as well. Again, use in moderation with the casualties. Now, last stand. Last stand is fantastic. Great defense. Only downside to it is casualties. Plus 30%. Pretty brutal, but that's basically about last stand. Now, delaying tactics. So basically, delaying tactics is great. I would only use delaying tactics if you want to wear your opponent down. So basically, you don't really have a good army and you don't want to waste manpower. Having delaying tactics is really good because that camouflage chance and surprise maneuver chance, fantastic. Now basically the opponent will still advance pretty well, but you're slowing them down in the process of doing that. So basically, you're waiting for another army to come on over to add extra enforcement to your line. Delaying tactics is very good to have. But yeah, so that basically sums up all the orders in the game. Now, I mean, yeah, besides all that, that is basically the Victoria 3 military strategy guide. There's a lot of ways and things that you can do, like, again, having an army to protect you from naval invasions, so focusing heavy on defense. So if I was having a naval invasion, I would probably just have only infantry. I probably wouldn't have artillery, because infantry, it's cheaper and it's has much higher defensive value again compared to the artillery. I mean, yeah, you know, but basically that's gonna summarize it for today's video. Now, I do have a Discord link for you guys to join in the description down below, and basically I would like you guys to join that and show me your infantry divisions or your infantry or your armies, and yeah, you know, kind of talk about it and see what they're best for. Again, link to the Discord, link in the description. But once again, guys, if you guys enjoyed today's video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. And thank you guys so much, and I'll talk to you guys another time. Peace out.